Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. And this is the Wrestling Conversation. And on this conversation, we're going to be talking about several different things, but we're going to start the program out talking about the NWO Part 2. Part 2. We got a couple of Facebook messages. People either love the NWO or they just hate them. Have y'all noticed this?
Well, the NWO actually was one of the beginnings of the sports entertainment. That was one of the beginnings. I've often called Kevin Sullivan the father of sports entertainment, and so this is the beginning of it right here. Did I already get kicked off already?
Jack, go ahead and write him down. We were talking about him turning heel several times, but
we
don't
get paid. We're going to double his pay if he would not turn heel tonight.
Well, I didn't. I was stating a fact. That was a fact. It wasn't turning on nobody.
Well, let's talk about Part 2. We left off on June 16th, 1996 at the Great American Bash pay-per-view. Eric Bischoff was interviewing Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. It was very interesting. Eric Bischoff said this was the first time any announcer ever got power bombed on a table, and I think he'd probably be correct in that, wouldn't y'all?
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
He wanted to do something different, so he went and done that. As you'll know, Razor Ramon during this, he toned down his Razor Ramon accent during this thing, since there was a lawsuit going on with the WWE over the Razor Ramon. And let's be honest, he was Razor Ramon on that show. So you can see why WWE might have won that lawsuit. It just made sense why they would. By the way, if you haven't seen Eric Bischoff yet, Power Bombed, it is available, I think, on the WWE Network. Am I correct there, Jack?
I believe so, yeah.
And then on June 17th edition of Nitro, Hall and Nash was not on the show. They asked Eric Bischoff why they wasn't on it, and he said he didn't want to give them everything week after week. Was this a good idea, Jack?
Oh, yeah, I think it was. I think that's a big thing that goes on now is too much of certain storylines. There's nothing wrong with taking a week or two off and coming back with it then.
Now, on that show, though, Mean Gene Okerlund gave them the name The Outsiders on that particular show. I don't know if Mean Gene come up with a name or they told him to call them The Outsiders. I'm not certain. Do y'all know?
No, I never heard.
They were going to go against Lex Luger, Sting, and Randy Savage at the next pay-per-view. There was three other people that was involved in that. It could have been Hulk Hogan, the Giant, and I can't remember the other person right now. Do y'all remember the other person that was going to be in this six-person thing? By the way, this is the ratings for the Nitro on June 17th. The Nitro was a 3.4. Raw was a 2.3. The week before the pay-per-view, 2.7 was Nitro. Raw 2.6. So people must have enjoyed seeing Eric Bischoff get through the table.
I did.
Well, let's get into the lawsuit. On June 20th, 1996, the WWE, or WWF at the time, files a lawsuit against Turner Broadcasting for copyright infringement, service mark infringement, whatever that means, tortious interference, and contractual relations. Vince also sends out a letter. We talked about this on the first deal, and Rodney didn't get to talk about this, but he sent a letter saying he didn't really want to do the lawsuit, but this billion-dollar company was trying to put his little family business out of business. Rodney, what do you think about that?
All I heard was violins. That's just the way it was. I can't believe he would actually go out there and say, he's putting out my family-owned organization, family-owned company, as if Bill Watson's was a family-owned company. He ran against him. The Von Erichs was a family-owned company. He ran against him. The Crockett's were a family-owned company. But, yeah, he was wanting to go in there and get Symphony. This big, huge corporation was after little bitty old him.
And by the way, he would run against the people in their same town the same night they were running to try to put them out of business. So if they had good attorneys, I don't think Vince would have won this. I don't think he would have won this thing.
Well, I think we got to remember now, at stake was, Stephanie might have wound up marrying one of the boys, and Shane might have left the company and sold all his interest. Oh, wait a minute, that did happen. Never mind.
What was amazing about this, though, Darren, while all this was going on, Vince went on his own show and told everybody that Scott Hall and Kevin Nash was not working for WWF anymore, and that they were on a rival show called Nitro. He actually said these words, and that to let the people know that he really, well, wouldn't that just make people tune up this? Oh, I didn't know they were on there.
Of course it did. That was that's Nick Goulas teaches you. Ignore the competition. Do not promote them. Let them promote their own show. You don't promote somebody else's show on yours. That's dumb.
I mean, what did you think, Jack?
Oh yeah, I when he did it, I was thinking you just don't do that. You don't acknowledge anybody else. Of course, now WCW wound up doing the same thing the night Mick Foley won the championship, and their ratings took a big plunge. And I don't know, was that the start of that when the WWE started coming back on them? I think so.
I think it was. I think that was the beginning. Plus, the DX invasion also helped WWE.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was awesome.
Yeah, it was good stuff. And we're going to talk about that on a future episode. We're going to talk about, because that was some great stuff. This is what WWE wanted. They wanted $2 million for the first thing. They wanted $2 million, but they also wanted the profit from the pay-per-view that they did in June, that WCW did in June, and the ones they did in July. They also wanted triple that amount for any problems that it caused them. And they did win it. 4 years later, they did win the lawsuit and get all that. So I guess Vince knew what he was doing. He was putting that poor little family business out of business, and I don't know how much. It doesn't say how much he got. Has anybody heard?
Well, based on what I remember about pay-per-view, WCW got not one penny of pay-per-view. It always went to Turner Home Entertainment. So I don't know what he would have got out of that, because actually the pay-per-view was basically owned by another company.
Well, now, he did sue Turner Broadcasting, though.
Oh, so it was Turner Broadcasting. Okay, well, then he probably got it then.
Yeah, not WCW. He did actually sue Turner Broadcasting. And that whole lawsuit is online if people want to read it, if you want to take the time to read it. I mean, it's like 100 pages. So unless you just want to take that, I didn't want to read the whole contract. I didn't think that was, I don't think people would really care about that. All right, on June 24th edition of Nitro, during the World Tag Team title match against Sting, Lex Luger against Harlem Heat and the Steiners, Hall and Nash come from the crowd, and this time with some baseball bats. And I mean, they're over the railing. Cops hit that ring. They got their hands on their guns. All right. Scott Hall said this made WCW wrestlers look bad. Did it make WCW wrestlers look bad that two guys with bats and there were six guys in the ring with cops?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it did.
I thought it was good stuff. Now, this is what they said that was happening in the back during this time. Said that they were evidently, during these tapings, there used to be some people that would sit there and tell you what you could and could not do. And the guys were in the back saying, you can't take them baseball bats out there. And Sullivan was going, no, don't take those baseball bats out there. No, don't you. They took them out anyway. I don't see how they didn't get fired for it, because we all know Dustin Rhodes and Darso Barry Darsow both got fired for doing something they wasn't supposed to do. Blood during that black top, whatever that thing was called that they did. I think my grandmother got fired for that as well. All right, on July 1st edition of Nitro, Hall and Ash make their way from the crowd, and they sit at ringside this time. They have their tickets. They sit at ringside, which I thought was great stuff. Jack, did you enjoy this?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I thought it was good storytelling.
And sitting there and then they're eating their popcorn, giving it over to people, just this great stuff. Finally, they grab a hold of the mic, they go into the back, and again, a bunch of police. Now there's a bunch of wrestlers there. There's 6 wrestlers, but the police is who had to get them back. So I can understand, but it was developing a story. We have to look at that. So developing a story, even though it may have looked made, but it didn't hurt WCW at this time. It only helped.
Yeah.
Now let's look at July 7th, 1996, pay-per-view Bash at the Beach. Now this was the main event. Scott Hall and Kevin Nash and their partner, who hasn't showed up yet, was in against Lex Luger, Sting, and Randy Macho Man Savage. At some point, and I've not seen what happened here, Jack, and maybe Lex Luger gets carried out of the match. I didn't see this part of the match.
I didn't see it either, but Lex got carried a lot in matches. So
this is true. He's gone. Lex Luger's gone, and so they're really beating up on Savage. I mean, they're beating him good. Sting on the outside somehow, and here comes Hulk Hogan down the line. I have to admit, wherever they were at when they were talking about this match, and Mean Gene Okerlund was telling the people about who could be in that match, and they mentioned Hulk Hogan, they booed him out of that building. Mm-hmm. I mean, they absolutely booed him. Now, but they didn't, wherever this was at, and I can't remember where it's at, they didn't boo him when he came out. They were pretty well cheering him.
Yeah.
And then when he gets in the ring, looks at them, and he drops that leg drop on Randy Savage. That was superb stuff. Do you think wrestling fans saw that coming?
I don't think so. I didn't see it coming. Yeah, and I thought it was awesome. And I didn't know that there was that much trash allowed in one building at one time. It was great.
Now, this is one thing somebody said, they paid these people to throw this trash in there. No, I don't think that happened. Rodney, did this happen?
No, they didn't pay anybody to throw anything in the building. No.
Those people were legitimately mad at Hulk Hogan.
Yep.
And it showed even then you could get heat if you wanted to get heat in the wrestling business. You just had
everything you wanted out of a finish of a match that produced it. It was just tremendous.
It was really good. Now, they talked about this third man for a long period of time. Let's look at this picture real quick. Let's pull this picture up of Hulk Hogan. As you see, there's no one sitting. Everybody's standing. Hulk Hogan does a great interview in this, where he says, "This is what you get for booing me," basically. Tremendous stuff. Tremendous things happen. Now, prior to all of this, 7 months before this, Eric Bischoff went to Hulk Hogan, and he sat down with him, and he wanted to go ahead and turn him heel. And he started talking about it. They went through. He said he looked at his watch and said, things are getting really, really, really a long time going. I said, I think I'm just going to go ahead and walk you to the door. He didn't want to be turned.
Yeah.
2 weeks prior to the show, Hulk Hogan's asked Eric Bischoff to come to Los Angeles where he was doing a movie. And he said, the first thing he asked him, he says, who's going to be the third man? Eric Bischoff said, I don't know, because he didn't want to share anything with him on any of who that's going to be. And he said, well, brother, you're looking at him. So he decided he wanted to be the man. Anybody was going to know if they were watching that this was going to be huge.
Yeah.
I mean, now the man that they were going to use was going to be Sting. would that have got, and I'll ask Rodney first, would that have got the impact that Hulk Hogan got?
It would have got over about as much of Mustafa Ali being part of the Retribution.
Jack, would it have got over?
I have to agree. I agree with Rodney there. I just don't. People did not want to boo Sting. They just love Sting. But a lot of people were ready to boo Hogan.
Yeah, this is true. They were already doing so. I think that, Hulk Hogan had creative control over his contract. We've talked about this before. I don't believe I would give anybody creative control on their contracts. So do y'all think that anybody should have creative control?
No, never.
I mean, Ultimate Warrior was given $1 million a year, and he wasn't going to lose a match. What were you going to do with him?
I would have had him put the ring up.
That would have been a very expensive ring crew.
At least he was doing what he was asked to do. I mean,
if the guy was drawing, that's one thing. But I wouldn't have put a title on him because how are you going to get it off of him?
It's true. That's true. I don't think he lasted, did he? He was there about 3 months or something, and he was gone.
Wasn't that long?
But this has to be the NWO. This is the beginning of the NWO. This picture right here, that was the start of it, and soon they will wear all the. I think he comes out soon as Hollywood Hogan, and they didn't even have to pay Marvel anymore for the name Hulk, so that came over good for WCW. So, all right, are we ready to go see what the insiders have got to say?
Let's head them up.
Let's see what they've got to say about what we're talking about. Like I said, some people like this. Some people, they just don't like Hulk Hogan for some reason. Greg Hickey said, all right, had boxing weekend and ready. I understand that boxing match was something else. I think they went to a time limit draw, basically, didn't they? Or I don't guess there was any winner, correct?
Yeah, I don't remember how many rounds it was, but, everybody out here say that Tyson was clearly the winner, but they declared it a draw, which I understand.
That was Roy Jones Jr., wasn't it, that he fought against? Greg Hickey said, Wrestling Monday. That's right. Richard Hood's with us. Good evening, guys. Good evening to you.
Hey, Mr. Richard.
Jeremy Travis, good evening. I hope you all had a great Thanksgiving. Yes, Jack, did you have a good Thanksgiving?
I lived through it, so yeah.
Rodney, you have a good one?
Still eating
all good.
I think Stewart he passed on NWO. Greg Hickey said NWO was too sweet. Like anything, though, boy, they just ran that thing down in the ground.
I think when people look back and they have negative feelings, a lot of times it's because they're looking at the entire angle, and they did. They jumped the shark with it and just kept riding that shark. And, but at the beginning, first year or so, that was the hottest thing that ever came along or had in years,
But 2.5 years later, 2 years later, just a little bit too much.
Yep.
Quasi, I'm not even going to try that name. NWO for life. Kevin said he's still not a Hall and Nash fan. Jack, are you a Hall and Nash fan?
No, but we, me, Kevin, Rodney, we could all form a club.
That's right.
Rodney, Hall and Nash fan?
No.
I'm not really a Hall and Nash fan either. I especially
they were hanger-ons to Hulk Hogan. If it wasn't for Hulk Hogan, they would have been opening the show.
I thought Scott Hall was a great wrestler.
Yeah,
I thought he was superb. Kevin Nash, not so much, but Kevin Nash had a personality.
Yeah.
Not as Vinny Vegas, no stretch of imagination, as not as the Oz or the Master Blaster, but when he came in, I don't even think he had a good one as Diesel.
No.
But he had a little bit of an attitude and a little bit of character in WCW.
The thing about Hall and Nash is they could not sell the ticket with the interview. Hogan can sell the ticket with the interview. They were very weak when it come to on mic.
Lee Oliver said NWO for live just too sweet. That did catch on, and they sold a lot of T-shirts. I mean, a ton of T-shirts. And talking about T-shirts, we actually have some T-shirts on sale. Well, I've got David Lawson stuff over there. But anyway, you can see Pro Wrestling Inside Out merchandise available on our Facebook page. Just at the shop now. You see the bomber wear. We've got not only T-shirts, but we got mugs. And also when I'd rather be watching wrestling. And that's actually wrestling, not sports entertainment. Well, let me get back to where I'm at. I've cut. David By said, great gimmick, great show. I have to admit, it was a great gimmick.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just it's been done before, but it was still a good gimmick, and it drew a lot of money. Yeah. Dennis Mitchell said, NWO Black Shirt T-shirts was great. As they said, we are too sweet. Hulk Hogan turned on Randy Savage. Do you remember the fan trying to enter the ring?
Yep.
Yeah, I think that guy might have been drunk. I'm not for sure. He said, I saw a lot of Jack Daniels point size after Hulk Hogan did that. But I'm going to tell you, that got some heat. David Lawson also asked, he said, watched a video of NAWA in 1990. Lo and behold, saw the great Ronnie West refereeing on there. Any stories from that territory? Is that was that the one in Carolinas?
I believe that's George Scott, North American Wrestling.
Yeah, that's the one I went up there for several shows too.
We do have some stories on it, and we will tell some of the stories on that. We didn't go. Me and Rodney didn't go to those.
Oh, I've got some stories.
So we'll let Jack tell some stories about that on some future episode. We'll talk about that and let you. But Ronnie West, he was never boring. There was no doubt when he went anywhere. There was nothing boring about his trips with him. There's no doubt. Jeremy Travis said, I'd say the WWF started the whole sports entertainment thing before every show. They said they were a recognized symbol in sports entertainment. At some point, they did have a good product. WWF did. They really and truly did. Some of the best stuff that I've seen during that time frame was really good. So Jeremy Travis still have my NWO Levi jacket I got as a gift during this time. Richard Hood said he'd love seeing Bischoff being put through the table. We'll take a couple of more, and then we'll get to the Adrian Street. We'll look at his start in professional wrestling. Greg Hickey, I'd put him through the table tonight. Mickey Mayfield said the night Hogan turned NWO, you could see the total shock on the faces in the crowd, and you saw real tears. The change happened after the reality of wrestling was never the same. From then on, it became a cartoon after that. And that was something that Eric Bischoff wanted. He wanted a reality-based wrestling. He didn't want a cartoon, and he did that for a while. He did do that for a while, but I think he got burned out very quickly. And I don't think he had anything to come after that. I think that was the only angle he had. Hey, this will work, but he wanted for it to work for years. McDermott is supposed to be an all-world attorney. Yes, I have heard that. That's one of the attorneys that I think another guy, I think WWE's was David Dunn, maybe. And I don't know if that's any kin to that guy that has something to do with what's his name?
Kevin Dunn.
Yeah. That might be his father. I'm not for sure.
I don't know. I'm sure Kevin would have fired him by now if he was.
David Lawson. Fake Diesel, fake Razor, terrible. Yes, that was horrible. Jeremy Travis says that's the rumor. And anybody ever watched Bruce Pritchard, Something to Wrestle With? And by the way, when he was writing the program for Bruce Pritchard, writing the program for the UWF, Universal Wrestling Federation, he had a thing in there that said Something to Wrestle With. So he'd had that name for years And I guess he just, hey, this sounds like a good name for my podcast. All right, guys. I think it is now time to talk about Adrian Street. Jack, have you got to watch the Adrian Street? I don't know the exact name of the documentary that he has out. Did you get to see that?
There are two. There's a shorter version on the WWE Network that's really good, but it's only about 45 minutes. The other one, I did get to see it. I wanted to go back and watch it today, and then I remembered you got to rent it, and I'm cheap, so I wouldn't know. But all kidding aside, it is well worth watching. I mean, it's very well put together. Lots of big name wrestlers they interviewed. A lot from Great Britain that they talked about his career. It was very, very good. The one on WWE Network just kind of glosses over everything, but the one, it's available through Amazon Prime. I know you can rent it there. It is well worth the investment.
Well, Adrian Street was born in 1940 to a mining family. At 15, he was taken out of school by his father to work in a coal mine. That had to be difficult at the age of 15.
Yeah.
He hated that. He has said in the interviews that I hated that. I wanted to be a professional wrestler. So when he was 16, he left home. And I believe these photographs that I have right now could have been when he was around that age. He could have been a little older. But this was 1955. So I guess that would have been about 15 years old. Here's Adrian Street.
Yeah.
About the time that he wanted to leave and become a professional wrestler. He said that he really didn't know any wrestlers from Britain. He only knew wrestlers from the United States because you would get the magazines from there. He watched on television or nothing. But here is another picture with, I guess, would have been a little bit maybe around that same time as well. Adrian was always in great shape, wasn't he?
Yeah, those pictures are actually from his modeling that he did for several magazines.
Wow.
I think, used those later on for wrestling, obviously, too, but those were from his modeling gigs that he got for a while.
Well, he said when he would talk about being a professional wrestler, they'd always tell him he was too small. Yep. He wasn't big enough. The other miners ridiculed him on his ambition and told him, little guys like you can't be pro wrestlers. He said, they'll rip you in half. Now, you got to remember, wrestling a little bit more legitimate in Britain at that time. He left the mine for the last time. He made it clear he was not coming back. His father was standing there, and the other miners asking if he would come back. He said, oh, yeah, he's going to come back. He likes his mother's cooking too much. He said that's what made him not ever want to stop. He wanted to continue going. This is the thing. I guess we'd have to ask Jack. At 15 years old, would you have left and went from where he lived to London at 15 years old?
Well, yeah, certainly. Recounting the issues he had, not only with working the mines, which he hated, but his father and himself, they didn't have a very good relationship. His father was a prisoner of war during World War II. He was a prisoner of the Japanese. Adrian was 5 years old before he was released and came back home. And he said they just never, ever had a good relationship his entire life. So he wasn't only trying to get away from the mines, he was tired of the way his father treated him too. Now, he's never said anything about his father being abusive, but there was no good relationship between the two. And I will point out real quick too, he was from South Wales. Don't ever say he's from England because he chastised me for that 2 months ago.
Rodney, would you have left at 15 years old and went on your own from where he lived to London?
Probably not.
I don't think I would have. I don't think I would have had the guts enough to do that.
You never know when you're in a situation in where our family wouldn't have put us in the mine. We had pretty cushy growing up, if you want to be honest about it.
This is true. this is what Adrian Street said in the interview. He said, the thing is, they didn't realize how good that did for me, for them telling me I wouldn't make it. He said, I would have starved to death. I would have died in the streets of London rather than come back and give them the satisfaction. Strong words that you would rather do that. As Jack said, you know, he didn't see his father till 5. Adrian made his way to London, and he went to a YMCA where he ran into 2 wrestlers. Now, one of these wrestlers, he said, was Abe Jacobs. Would that have been the Abe Jacobs we know of?
Yeah.
So that would have been. So that'd have been the same guy and some other guy. I can't remember who he said the other guy was. Do you all remember, Jack? You remember?
I don't remember offhand, no.
Well, they said that at first they told him, hey, listen, you're too small, you're too young to sleeve. There's no way you're going to make it. And he told them both. This is what Adrian said. He pointed at Abe and he said, well, I'm going to whip you first, and then you just stand around and wait, and I'm going to whip you next. Adrian thought he was kind of a tough guy because he was a pretty tough person from where he was at. He said both them wrestlers took turns at him and beat him so bad and hurt him so bad during that 2 hours he was there that he couldn't even hold his head up to drink some milk, that he had to hold his head up and take that milk and drink it. That's how bad they beat him in that thing. And they did tell him, don't come back. Don't come back. You need to be bigger and older.
It was from that beating that he and Linda started having their relationship. He had met Linda, and he was hurting so bad after that, he knew he couldn't take care of himself. And the only person he knew that he had met was Linda. And he showed up at her door and basically fell in the door when she opened the door. And she took care of him for 2 weeks till he was able to get up and get out around on his own again. And they've been together ever since.
Rodney, would you have came back? Somebody beat you that bad? Would you have came back?
No, and I'd get the message. They didn't want me around.
Jack, if you would have got beat up that bad, would you have came back? I mean, you were a wrestler. Would you have came back for it?
Well, you know, back when I started, they wanted to beat you up pretty bad. They wanted to see how tough you were. I never had that mentality, but I went through that. Now, on the other hand, I was 6'4" and 300 pounds. So, and right out of the Army. So beating me up wasn't quite as easy as what they envisioned to begin with. But no, I don't know. It just shows how much heart he had and how bad he wanted it, that he would take that and come back for more.
Well, evidently the YMCAs in that area they just had wrestling being trained everywhere. He found another YMCA. He did go back to that one. I guess he felt like
that was a good idea. That's what I was talking about. You wouldn't go back to the same place. You'd try somewhere else.
Well, he did it. He went to another YMCA and he ran into a guy named Chip Osmond. He said, and he did train him. He said he trained him a little bit. He didn't beat him up as bad as the rest of them. He did train him. And Chip ended up getting a contract, I guess, with the big wrestling organization in Great Britain. And so he had some towns, independent shows. I don't know I think they called them independent shows there. I don't know that they called them outlaw groups. They didn't say this in an interview anyway. I don't know, Jack, did you hear that? Did they call them outlaws there, or did they call them?
I don't remember what they called them, but I know World of Sport was the big promotion over there.
For the big, well, Chip evidently got a contract with them. So Adrian was going to take care of all of his independent shows. He said, go and take care of them. And Adrian admitted, oh, yeah, that sounds great. The only problem was they did not smarten Adrian up before he got to the show. He thought he was in an athletic contest and you were supposed to beat him. And when they took him, he said that he got in the ring, and within 2 minutes, he broke the guy's shoulder he was wrestling against. 2 minutes. You would think, and they said the promoter came in and went, what in the world are you doing? He said, well, I beat the guy. He said, I'm ready for the world champion. I'm ready for the champion. He said, what? I'm ready for the champion. I beat the guy. He said, I beat your big guy. I'm ready for the world champion now. Well, they had to smarten him up after this. and they sent him to some guy, and I can't remember. Adrian talked about a guy. I believe maybe the guy's name was Monroe or something. I don't know, but he sent him to a guy and said, "I want you to go down there, and he's going to train you how to die." So in other words, he's going to train him how to wrestle and how to actually get hit and sell it and those kind of things. Would you think that you put somebody on a card, Adrian Street? Would you think you'd have to smarten them up? But you said,
well, let's remember how small he was. A lot of people made the mistake of taking him for granted because he wasn't a big guy, especially at that time. So, but I was in the same boat as we've talked about. They didn't smart me up till I beat the same guy up 3 nights in a row.
So what do y'all think that and I'll ask Rodney this, do you think they thought Adrian couldn't beat the guy?
That's exactly what they thought.
Oh yeah.
And they didn't tell him nothing. They just thought
they just told this guy, "Oh, this will be easy. He doesn't know what he's doing. You can beat him easy. So go ahead." And then they back there, like, "What happened? I thought I could beat him easy."
Adrian said they didn't want to call him Adrian Street when he got there. And he said his 2 favorite wrestlers was Don Leo Jonathan and Nature Boy Buddy Rogers. That was the 2 people that he liked. The promoter asked him, he said, what is your name? And he said he was thinking about it, and he said the Kid Jonathan. He wanted to be named after Don Leon, and there was a boxer that I think he had wrestled as kid something. And he said, that's what I call him. And he said, well, let's call you Tarzan. Let's call you Tarzan, Jonathan. He said, well, back Kid Tarzan Jonathan. And that's the name that he came up with. And he wrestled as that name for years before he wrestled as Adrian Street. When he broke the guy's shoulder, the promoter said, hey, you're going to have to take this guy's bookings. And then that's when he sends him to the guy to train him how to wrestle. And he said, when you come back, you're going to have to take all his bookings because the guy's going to be out for weeks because you broke his shoulder. And I don't think when you listen to Adrian do the interview, I don't think he really was upset about breaking the guy's shoulder.
Yeah, it kind of worked out for him.
It did. He would get his big break. And here is a picture of him. I'll throw that picture up in a minute, but he would get his big break with a big promotion because television was getting big time there. I think that they were running all over the place when these TVs hit. Rodney, you had talked to Adrian, I think, a little bit about when he first started on television there. Didn't you talk to him a little bit about that?
Yeah, he's talked about it. He said he needed to get he was smaller, so he needed a gimmick pretty much. And so he said, I started off with kind of a wig. And he said, I had a flowery a robe. And he said, I made them myself. And he said, I started off doing that. And he said, it just evolved over the years. I just added to it. He said, the more outrageous I got, the better it got, the more attention I got, because basically I was on the first matches. And all of a sudden now, as the more wilder I got, put the makeup on, get my hair dyed, make it up curly. The more wild I got, the more attention I got. That was his deal.
It's funny because he talked about that. He said that he thought they would when they came down to the ring, he thought they would say, "Oh, look at Adrian Street! Oh, he's so magnificent! He's so great!" But they didn't do that. They hollered, "Oh, Mary! Oh, isn't she cute?"
Yeah. Oh, Mary, give us a kiss.
Stuff like that. He actually said in an interview that he felt like the fans are who developed his character. He said they helped develop. Now, he was not called Exotic Adrian Street when he first started. He actually was called Nature Boy Adrian Street. And mainly because he would go and he would get on the bus with the people, and they would stop at these greasy spoon restaurants, and they'd eat all the greasy food, and he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't buy that stuff. He brought his own stuff to eat, and so he didn't eat that stuff. So the guy that was writing for the magazines started calling him Nature Boy, Adrian Street. So he was Nature Boy way before there was a There was a Ric Flair way before there was Buddy Landell and whoever else is out there calling himself the Nature Boy. I think there's a couple other guys out there that's called themselves that throughout the years. In one of these, let me throw these pictures, because I think this might be around that time frame that he decides to do it. And he also said that he really didn't know what they were calling them until he got to the towns, and he would go look at the posters, and then he finally seen that the boys was calling him Nature Boy, and they started calling him Nature Boy on the posters and on the television as well. And here's another picture that would come a little later. Street would come a little later, and he said he would only put on the eyeshadow for a while. It took him a while to put on all the makeup and stuff, and also said that Elton John, David Bowie, what is it that they called that, the glam rock, that he kind of started that. It's just an incredible thing. The thing about it is, he said, I was used to ridicule. So he said that it really didn't bother him that the people would say, "Oh, Mary, oh, isn't he cute?" He said it didn't bother him, because he said, I had been ridiculed all my life. So it never bothered him. He said, so when I got back in the dressing room and they'd ask, "Oh, what did you do? It didn't work." He said, "Oh, everything happened the way I wanted it to." And he always told them that. And he said that in 1973, he won the European Middleweight Championship. Here's a picture from 1975. I couldn't find one when he won the title in 1973. But boy, Adrian was in shape here.
Yeah.
This is the world middleweight wrestling champion. But he won that, and there was a big magazine that wanted to do a story on him. And he said, the only way you can do a story on me is you got to let me pick where to take the picture. And he actually said that, I want to go take the picture in the mines, the coal mines where my father works.
Yep.
And that's where he ends up with a couple of really pictures. And here's one right here of Adrian Street with the other miners looking there, and there is his father.
Yep.
And Jack, what do you remember of him talking about this?
He said that look that his dad had on his face was pure disdain, and it was real. That he was greatly embarrassed by him showing up dressed like that.
Wow. He said this photograph is a revenge photograph. It's him going back to the pit where he had worked and been bullied, teased, and laughed at, to show his father and the guys in the pit what he had made of himself and how proud he was of how he looked.
Yep.
He said, I think by now I've proved my dad and the other coal miners wrong. People have asked and that's when he asked, he told him, he said, people asked if he had invented glam rock. Street said, I tell them no, but we sure did borrow a lot from each other. Let me just go over a couple while we're looking at this picture. Let me go over a couple of matches that he had. Adrian Street went against Bobby Barnes on February 15th, 1964 in Hampshire, England. He was in Portsmouth, Hampshire, England on December 23rd. Burt Royal and Vic Faulkner defeated Adrian Street and Bobby Barnes, right there they are, as the Hells Angels.
Yep.
They
tagged quite a while over there.
Here's another Jackie Paulo, and Jackie Paulo Jr. defeated Adrian Street and Bobby Barnes by disqualification on September 1st, 1972. So you look at 1966, they were teaming with each other. 1972, they're still teaming with each other. And then in May of 1981, Adrian Street made his way to Canada to wrestle for Stu Hart, where he wrestled Bruce Hart, Davey Boy Smith, Bret Hart, Keith Hart. And by the way, folks, Adrian does not like Keith Hart. I don't know what the man did to him, but he did not say good things about Keith Hart.
Yeah.
And he would also team with the Dynamite Kid during this time. He would then go to Germany, where he helped bring Bret Hart, Dynamite Kid, Jim Neidhart on the tour with him. Now, Keith Hart wanted to go with them. He didn't want Keith Hart to go with him, so he told the promoter, if Keith Hart goes, I'm not going. Keith Hart does. I think he said Keith Hart does end up going there, but he pays his own way and everything there. But I don't know that he actually wrestled on it because I don't think Adrian would wrestle. It'd be very interesting to hear more information on why he didn't like Keith Hart. He liked Bruce. He really liked Bruce. I guess Bruce was booking that at the time.
Yeah, and Smith Hart, he had a good relationship with Smith also.
Yeah. So here's a couple other. He actually in February of 1982 he would go to the Grand Olympic Auditorium where he defeated a guy named Tim Talltree. I don't know that I couldn't find any photographs of this match. Then he would in March he would in Santa Ana, California, Mondo Guerrero defeated Adrian Street by disqualification. And then Los Angeles, California, on March 14th, 1982, Adrian Street defeated Sweet Brown Sugar, but not the one we know of. This was a guy named Luis Marcelica or something like that. I guess he was a Spanish wrestler. But actually, Adrian Street won his first title in the United States. He won the NWA America's Heavyweight title in a loser leaves town match. So Sweet Brown Sugar left. Adrian Street stayed around. Here's another match on April 5th, 1982 in Santa Ana, California. Chris Adams on this show, and Ringo Wrigley defeated Adrian Street and Timothy Flowers III. June 11th, 1982, Los Angeles, California. Adrian Street defeated Black Gordman. And here's a match I would have liked to see. June 25th, 1982, Los Angeles. Adrian Street against Mil Mascaras.
Yeah.
I wonder if Mil did the stuff to Adrian that he did to most people.
I'd be willing to bet he didn't.
I wouldn't think so. Then on August 27th, 1982, Los Angeles, Mando Guerrero and Hector Guerrero defeated Timothy Flowers III and Adrian Street. This Timothy Flowers III must have been there for a long time. He must have been a great
Diamond Timothy Flowers. He had quite a career.
And then he would return to Germany, and he would tour in September, and then he would make his way to Memphis Wrestling. And the next time we talk about Adrian Street, we'll talk about his time in Memphis. Very interesting time for Adrian in Memphis, Tennessee, and I think that's where he meets Jim Cornette, and we'll talk about that on the next installment of Adrian Street. Rodney, anything that we left out that he told you in talking with him about his early career?
Yeah, when I talked to him, and Dad accused me of being a mark. I asked a question. I was just interested of how he developed. And he said it wasn't something that was done overnight. It took years and years to develop. And then, of course, his skills of he and Linda were able to make his outfits. But yeah, it was not something that was automatic. He said, I just played with it. I kept going, adding a little bit to it. And like you were saying before, the crowd helped him develop it. The audience helped him develop it. So yeah, that's what he told me when I asked him the question. And then after I told Dad about all the story, what Adrian told me, he said, are you a mark or what?
You should have said, yeah, for that. I wanted to know about Adrian Street.
Well, no, I thought it was interesting to find out, these are not things that you're just given. These are, as we're learning, it was things that were developed over the years. You just don't say, okay, all today you're going to be, you're going to be Superman today. No, it takes years to develop. Superstar Billy Graham took years to develop his character. Hulk Hogan is another one that took years to develop. And so that was what I was really asking the question of, how did you develop? How many years did it take? That was the question I was asked, but then Dad said I was a mark.
Jack, is there anything that we're missing that we need to talk about before his career, before he gets to Memphis Wrestling?
Not offhand, but there's so much yet to be told about Adrian. So you guys stay tuned and come in for that, because we got lots more to say.
And by the way, Adrian Street does have a Facebook page. A good Christmas gift would be one of his little dolls he's got. I think he's got them for sale. He's got his albums. He's got a lot of stuff. And somehow you contact him through Facebook, I believe.
Yep.
To get the merchandise from him, but do so. do so. Go onto Adrian Street's Facebook page. Go on there and buy you something. Let Adrian Street sign it and send it to you. I don't think you'll be, especially his albums. If you've never heard them, get them. They're great.
And his autobiography is up to 7 or 8 volumes now.
Wow.
So those are available too.
So go over there, Adrian Street. I guess it's just put Adrian Street on. It'll come up, Sonic Adrian Street, and get over there and buy something from him and support him for all the entertainment that he gave us throughout the years. Adrian Street, and we'll be giving you part 2 coming up in the next few months. All right, we're ready to go back to the insiders, and hopefully I can figure out where I left off when let's see. Richard Hood, when going back to the NWO, he said I felt it was distasteful when Bischoff announced Mick Foley as the WWF champion. Jack?
Yeah, well, actually, it was Tony Schiavone that made the statement, but and he instructed Tony to do that in a very derogatory way of, well, you guys just keep here because we already know it was taped, and Foley won the championship and nobody wants to see that. Well, boy, were they wrong.
Rodney, was it distasteful?
I wouldn't call it distasteful. It was bad. It was a bad decision because you never, as I've said before, you never advertise your competition. You advertise what you have, not what somebody else has had. And of course, they learned their lesson in that, I would assume.
Mickey Mayfield said, I saw a middle-aged man wearing a Wolfpack shirt at the grocery store last week. I threw up the Wolfpack hand sign and he said people wouldn't understand, and we both laughed. That's probably true. They wouldn't even know. They wouldn't even know it. But we have found there is a lot of old school wrestling fans. Me and Jack were talking about this before we went on the air tonight. We are growing each and every day around 120 people on Facebook now. Each day. Soon we're going to be up to 15,000 followers. There's a lot of old school wrestling fans that love old school wrestling. And if you know of any, send them our way. Let them know about it and let them know that we're talking about the old school wrestling. And I just think there's a bunch of wrestling fans out there that love the old days. I'm going to try to find if somebody would like to talk about. I hit something wrong over here on this button here, and I'm trying to get back to to where I was at. And there we go. I did find it finally. Dr. Phil Bogrice said, I used to enjoy Nitro because it reminded me of old school until towards the end. I think the lack of viable competition might be why the quality of WWE is lacking. I do enjoy NXT. Rodney, what do you think?
I right about that time is when I started to stop watching. I watched a little bit of the WWE when Vince McMahon and Steve Austin was going at it, but right about now it's when I started losing interest in watching the show every week.
Victor Nash said, hello, guys. Dusty Rhodes was on commentary during that match.
Yes, he was. He sure was.
Jeremy Travis says, if it was anyone else other than Hogan for the third man, I don't think it would have worked well at all. Richard Hood said Hogan made a great heel. He did so, but he had been a heel before too, so he knew what to do in that role. Anthony Taylor, the sad thing is, it feels like WWE Creative has forgotten how to write a good story. Jack?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't blame WWE Creative for anything that's put on TV because everything goes through Vince, and he changes it. He throws it out. We hear stories all the time about them rewriting right up till showtime now, even though they may have scripts ready for weeks. So, creative is only as good as Vince allows them to be.
This is true. Kevin Mullins said Heenan blew it when he accidentally said Hogan is the third man, and Dusty says, what are you talking about? He did do that. If you watch it, he don't really say third man. He says, well, who is he with? I think was the exact words you said. Am I correct on that?
Yeah.
He said, well, who will he be with? So, I think Eric Bischoff said that he wasn't too happy about it. But at the same time, he didn't tell him anything either. So they didn't know.
No.
Yeah, they thought it was going to be Sting, I believe. I believe everybody really believed it was going to be Sting. Greg Hickey said, two old dudes was great from another old dude. Which two of you calling old dudes? It has to be Rodney and Jack. Anthony Taylor said, when the NWA hit, it changed the game completely. I think that's right. I do believe it changed, and especially changed the direction of WCW being able to take over, because it was so you wanted to watch every week just to see what they were going to do.
Well, and it changed WWF too, because they had to step up their game and come up with something different.
Victor Nash said he believed it would have worked even if it was Triple H as the third man.
No, I think it needed to be that huge name, and there was no bigger name than Hogan.
Yeah, I agree too, Rodney.
Yeah, it had to be Hogan or nobody. It would have, and they would have been trying to figure out something else to do.
Now they always talked about it wanting to be me, and but I said no, I can't turn heel myself. Now Rodney said he's all right with turning heel. He's turned heel about 45 times on this program. Bill Harris is with us. He said, "Hi, Jack, Lauren, the West Boys. Merry Christmas."
Merry Christmas, Mr. Harris.
Merry Christmas to you as well. Anthony Taylor said Hogan was the way to go. The impact was immediate. Then they destroyed everything by going overboard. Everyone was part of the NWO at the end. That's true.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Again, they wanted me part of the NWO, and I said,
"Well, I bought an NWO shirt in hopes that I might got picked up. They didn't see it, I guess."
Well, they did have everybody in there. I think Nick Patrick was even in there. Was he not in the NWO?
He was.
Well, at one time, they were going to drop WCW altogether, were they not? And go completely NWO?
Yes, there was talk of that.
And maybe that should have been, maybe they should have done it that way.
Hey, talking about Nick Patrick, I think he started Deep South Wrestling back up.
They did some kind of taping with no crowd already, I think, last weekend, but yeah, I talked to Nick not too long ago. He was real excited about getting that started back up.
The ironic part, they used to do that years ago with no crowd, but it wasn't because of the. I'm just joking, Nick. I'm joking. I was a joke. Let me go ahead and write down, Rodney. You have your list over there. I'm going to write mine down. Apologize to Nick Patrick, Jody Hamilton for that.
It's too bad.
Jack, you have any I need to write down that you said that we did?
No, I'm good. I'm not apologizing to Lex Luger. I don't care what you say.
I was just joking. It was a joke. Dr. Phil Bogras said, I agree with Jack. I'm not an NWO fan, and I think the gimmick ran too long. Stuart Kim, so one of those things where an ideal runs way too long, everybody was a part of it, and made it to the point it was a battle royal worth of people. Yeah, they had all kinds. NWO Wolfpack, NWO Green, NWO. I mean, it was just horrible. It just too much NWO going on. But they did the same thing with the Four Horsemen. They get something, they just keep on doing it and doing it and doing it, and then you start putting Paul Roma in the Four Horsemen, and you're thinking, what are you doing? Nothing against Paul Roma, but he just wasn't a part of it. He shouldn't have been a part of the Four Horsemen, and neither should what was that other guy that was in it? The football player,
Mongo.
Oh,
he
yes.
shouldn't have been a part of the business, period. But
let's see, Mongo, Jack, Mongo.
No, yeah, give him my home number, because from what I understand, he can't fit the door anymore. So I'll be all right.
He told the truth. When you tell the truth, there's nothing wrong with telling the truth.
Let's see.
He works in that moron actor they put the world title on.
That's true. Kevin Biddleton.
Bischoff would have been blackballed forever for that. Never should have seen the light of day ever again for that debacle. If I was Turner, I'd have fired him for that.
And Arquette has came out and said that he agrees that he never should have. That should never have happened to him.
They diminished it. They just as well have took that belt out and buried it. Right along with Arquette and Bischoff, right along with it.
Kevin said he didn't like all match because everything was funny to them.
Yeah.
Agree, the mic work was weak. I think they were talking about Hall and Nash. Glenn Allen said no to all was Flair. I'm not for sure that. I'm pretty sure it's something we were talking about at the time. But as you get older, you forget what you did 5 minutes ago. So that's the reason I have to write down the people we have to apologize to, because I'll forget that we. Let's see. Victor Nash said, I'll never forget Kevin Nash was using Rey Mysterio as a long dart head first in the side of the trailer. Yes, that was brutal. And from what I'm told, Ray told him to do that.
Yeah.
It wasn't. He said, just throw me into it. Just throw me. And he did. Bill Harris said, George Scott, best booker ever.
Yeah, he's one of them for sure. He's definitely one of them for sure.
Yep.
George Scott knew how to take a guy and get him over. It would take a while, but and that's what happened when he went to Georgia. They never gave him the time to do that. They were really needing to draw money, and they just wouldn't give him the time.
They were looking for a quick fix, and he was right. It wasn't a quick fix. It was a long-term building process that they needed.
Anthony,
although I did disagree with him at the time that he wanted to change Gordon Soley, and I'm glad they stood up to him and said no on that.
Yeah, what they did to Flair during this period was horrible. Yes, I agree with you.
Oh man,
that was some bad stuff. We'll have to talk about that one time. That's some very interesting stories. Then they tried to turn the Horsemen to faces. That was horrible. Yes, it was. But you just can't keep on doing the Horsemen over and over. They just kept on just adding people to it, and that got bad too. Eric B should have stayed out of the spotlight. He ruined the gimmick. Do you think he ruined it, or did he? What do y'all think? Did he ruin it by being part of it?
I don't think it ruined. I think it was perfect. It was a good surprise when it happened. The main thing is that once you do it, you need to keep yourself off TV. You only need to come on ever so often, maybe once a month, and only big angles. That way, when he shows up, it makes its impact. When he's there every single week, doing the same thing every week, it diminishes him every single week.
Let's look at Anthony Taylor said, now given they couldn't pull that off today. Do y'all think they could? Could they pull off that angle today?
I think that if it hadn't been done before, they probably could.
I heard Adrian was a shooter. I think he was more like the hooker. Don't y'all believe that?
He was a hooker.
Yeah, he was the one that could hurt you.
Yep.
A shooter sometimes wouldn't hurt you, but a hooker would definitely hurt you, and no doubt. Mickey Mayfield said that Adrian ever wrestled Eric Emery. I don't know.
Not sure.
Eric
was a heck of a wrestler, though.
We will find out. He said, who brought Adrian to the USA? It would have actually been, who was the promoter in California?
Starkey? Was it Starkey?
I don't think it was Starkey. I believe Guerrero was the one booking at the time. Mondo Guerrero was the one booking. So he would have probably been the one that brought him in, but I can't remember the actual promoter's name.
I don't remember. Gene LaBelle is the only name that's coming to mind. But
LaBelle was it. Gene LaBelle was the brother. So whatever. My mind went blank, but I think it is LaBelle. Gene LaBelle was the actual guy that did all the movies, right?
Mm-hmm. Still the toughest guy in the state of California.
Jeremy Travis said, I got to see Adrian Street wrestle once in Alexandria, Louisiana. He was definitely a flamboyant wrestler and could whip anybody in the ring, no doubt. Adrian Street was one of those guys who played it so cool, fans wasn't sure if he made them question their own sexuality. I first saw him on video with Lords of the Ring, put out by Vestro Video. I read lots of him in magazines, but never had seen him. The first time I saw him, I was blown away how good he was, both the character and also how fluid he was.
Yep.
Yeah, he was no doubt. He knew what he was doing inside the ring. Bill Harris said Adrian was a great worker. And and he was. There was no doubt. He said, yes, till beat them. Glenn Allen said That's probably something about Adrian Street. All right, guys, we're running. Let's get to Mid-South Wrestling. Rodney, let's get to Mid-South Wrestling. I think it was 278. We actually have. I'm gonna be honest with you. We can't find episode 278. I don't know if that episode disappeared somewhere, or but I couldn't find it. I don't think Jack could. I don't think any of us could find it. It may be available on the WW Network, but here's the. Let me put this big so people can see this. Here is the actual. As you see, it was January 2nd, 1985. It's show 278. You see the stuff on the side. This was the one that was actually used. You see Carl Fergie refereeing one match. Pee Wee was on it. Ronnie West with two of the matches there. Pee Wee. Evidently, Pee Wee didn't want him to do twos because they changed it. Fergie went to the other one, and Fergie did another match. But that's the thing. So, Robbie, you want to go over this?
All right. Well, we start off with Bill Watts and Boyd Pierce, one of my favorites of all time. They were talking about Christmas night in New Orleans. The Rock and Roll Express regained the Mid-South Tag Team Championship from Ted DiBiase and Sheik Hercules Hernandez. Skander Akbar is protesting. Akbar was not there that night and claims foul. But the Rock and Roll Express are the new Mid-South Tag Team Champions. And then, of course, they had the video of the Rock and Roll Express. And then they're back. Mid-South Wrestling now is going to bar Steve Dr. Death's helmet, finally, after all those months. Any violation will subject him to a fine and other penalties. 2 weeks ago, Iceman King Carson was here on TV. His bout with Kamala, and, of course, they talked about Akbar. And so it angered him that now the Iceman King Parsons is now moving to the Mid-South. Let's go back just for a minute over that helmet thing. You would have thought they would have took care of that a long time ago. And while they were at it, take care of Ted DiBiase's glove. But, that's just me. It's good for the helmet, but not for the glove. Makes no sense to me.
I'm ready for it. Well, I'm hearing myself for some reason. Here's they're going to outlaw this thing as well, the little mallet. Well, do you think they'd outlaw that?
Well, if it's being used illegally, I would think so. It would make sense if you're going to bar one thing, you need to bar several.
I never understood the. I'm sorry. Did y'all ever understand the Dr. Death Award?
The only thing I understand it for was him putting it up on the ring, up on the corner for him to use. That's the only thing.
I'd rather have had my mallet here. I don't get. I never have understood that. And why they thought that was going to be. Entertaining whatsoever. I guess they wanted to give him a gimmick to use, but still, that was kind of crazy.
Yeah. First match, we'll have the Iceman King Parsons. He's one of my favorites. I have to go back to that interview we saw a couple of weeks ago where he says he's going to pack up and come. Just tremendous interview. Iceman Parsons, always great. He's facing another good one, Rick Oliver, in a great match. And, of course, Iceman is over in that one. Then we come back with an interview with Chavo and Hector Guerrero about the Rock and Roll Express and, of course, challenging them as the new Mid-South Tag Team Champions. We go back to the ring. It's Tim Horner and Shawn Michaels facing Chavo and Hector Guerrero. And again, ladies and gentlemen, we haven't seen this, so we will assume that Chavo and Hector Guerrero is the winner in that one. We're just guessing. We're just guessing, of course. I'm just going to – I don't think it's a good guess. I think it's a very good guess that Tim Horner and Shawn Michaels did not defeat the Guerreros, being they just talked about the Rock and Roll earlier. And then in our next match is for the Mid-South Television Championship. It's Buddy Landell, the Mid-South Television Champion, defending against Terry Taylor, and Terry Taylor regains the Mid-South Television Championship. Then we go to the tag match. I have to scoot down here on my computer here. It is a tag match. It's Ted DiBiase and Steve Dr. Death Williams versus Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Private Terry Daniels. I'd like to have seen that one. I believe that would have been a good one. The people were should be on fire. I have seen video of 279. I'm assuming that was filmed the same night. The crowd was kind of off. I'm assuming bad weather in Shreveport that night. Because even on the front row during that particular one, people were still in their jackets. And so it must have been cold in the old.
Or they heard Private Terry Daniels is on the card.
Well, that could be true. Anyway.
I get cold every time I hear his name.
I'll tell you, I'll tell you right now. Then we have the next match is Brad Armstrong versus the Sheik, Hercules Hernandez. He did not lose the title, but I would assume maybe a time limit draw. They have one in the next show as well. Diamond is David Diamond against the Ugandan Warrior Kamala, or Ugandan Giant, whichever you prefer. Rocky King against Jake the Snake Roberts. And next week, we'll have a special award to Jim Duggan. Brad Armstrong defends the North American title against Steve Dr. Death Williams. And that ends show number 278.
When we look back at 1984, let me ask y'all, we went through the whole shows. We did some of them were built with Bill Dundee at the beginning. Did it kind of slide down a little bit when Midnight Express left?
Well, that was something I was thinking about when I was watching the shows this past weekend. Cornette and the Midnight Express is something you simply can't follow. They just cannot. They're just that good. Akbar is fine, but when you put Akbar in the way he does things against Cornette, there's no comparison. Cornette has the tennis racket tennis. He has the storyline where his mother is funding everything, and then Cornette's actually obnoxious, unlike Akbar. And Cornette played his part to the T. And then you have the experience of Bobby and Dennis. Just a tremendous team. I went back and you think about, you watch the shows from the year prior, even the build-up with the Midnight Express. It's nothing because it's nothing compared to what they're doing now. Honestly, we've already seen Ted DiBiase. What really more can you do with Ted DiBiase in Mid-South? I love Ted DiBiase. He was great. He would have been better off staying with Jim Crockett Promotions and being groomed to be world champion instead of being down there in Mid-South. He really would have, as far as I'm concerned. We've already seen Kamala. We've already seen these people. Basically, what their problem is that they were all using old hats. Whereas Cornette, Midnight Express, Dennis, and Bobby were all new, never had been seen there before. That's the difference, in my opinion. Did I talk too much? I'm sorry.
Jack, what did you think?
Oh, I agree. It just, if you look at it for me as purely a fan perspective, it's hard to follow Jim Cornette and the Express and the Rock and Roll Express for that matter too. There was so much excitement there, but it seems like every time they tried to come in with something after those guys were gone, like with the Fantastics and the Pretty Young Things, all that, if they didn't get over what Bill felt like immediately, they only lasted a few weeks and they were gone. So we didn't have an opportunity for new blood to come in there and start exciting people. Instead, he started bringing the older guys back, that had been there before. And the older guys were not that old at the time, but they had been there for so long. And now you're bringing them back again. And it was just, it was like beating a dead horse. Now the horse probably still looked good, but it wasn't moving.
No, you missed the rivalry between the Rock and Roll Express and Midnight Express. And you also had that great story, the great storyline between Wrestling 2 and TA that was going on at the same time. And that was something, that long-term building is something that was thrown out the window for whatever reason.
Yeah. I mean, we have nothing whatsoever building up Brad Armstrong. They just bring him in, they stick the belt on him, but they don't do nothing with him. You got young guys like Tim Horner there that should have been pushed, to the top and see what he could do. And I think he would have succeeded because Tim's one of the great workers that don't get mentioned a lot, unfortunately. But there was so much young talent there, but he just didn't want to take the time to build those. He wanted to go back, and bring in the guys who had existing storylines basically, or, the characters were built instead of building new ones.
And it leads to the big, we'll be talking about it coming up. We're going to go into the sharp dressed man matches. I will tell you that the Superdome that through the previous year's Superdome did 25,000. The Superdome with Jim Duggan and Ted DiBiase on the main event, 9,500 people. There is a major difference, and that's because they went with DiBiase and Duggan old hat from 1982 and doing it one more time.
Yeah.
It just, to me, it was just, I just, when I go back and look, I'm thinking when we look back at 1984 and we look at the Midnight Express, we look at the Butch Reed and Bud Landell as a tag team, and at the beginning with the Junkyard Dog, and really even the stuff with Master G, even though it didn't make any sense when he came out and they didn't know who he was. I mean, that didn't make any sense, but I don't see this. And we know that Chavo and Hector do not have the matches with the Rock and Roll Express.
No.
Really, they had no chemistry together whatsoever. Just was not good matches at all. They didn't have the matches even that they would have with Ted DiBiase and Steve Williams. Now, they had some great matches later on, but it takes a while to get there. But next week, we have found number 279.
Yes, we have found it. And
we can watch that.
Boy, do I have a lot to say about the Brad Armstrong and Steve Williams match. I will burn it all. The internet will melt down when I get finished.
Let's just go ahead and do this. Rodney.
Might put a disclaimer. This thing's going to be hot with Brad Armstrong and Steve Williams. I will not be kind to Jim Ross or Joel Watts, either one.
Well, that will be on the next episode. Mid-South Wrestling will be looking at episode 279, and we'll see you on the next episode on Mid-South Wrestling. All right, guys, let's go back and to the insiders. And we'll finish this out. We'll finish this show out, and while we were seeing what the insiders have got to say. Dennis Mitchell, which wrestler in wrestling, Adrian Street, could not stand in the USA and UK? Was he ever a U.S. citizen? Did he ever become a U.S. citizen?
I don't believe so.
How about you, Roddy? Did he?
You know what? I'm not for sure. I'm not sure. I'm just not for sure.
You'd have to ask him. You probably, maybe when you're over there buying something, buying a little doll, something, ask him a question. I'm pretty sure he'll answer that for you because I don't know. Leonard Gross said, I met him and Linda when they were in Memphis. I can find fault in anything, but not with him. He was that good. He was great in the ring. He was better in the dressing room. He was a total gentleman. I think we all can agree with that.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. And I had no problem. If you asked him a question about something, no problem answering. He didn't give you that, well, I don't have time for that. No, he had time to answer the questions.
Rick, we're glad you're back and sorry about the special loss of a loved one. We hate to hear that. Daniel Lang said Hogan went back after they broke his ankle or leg, something like that. Yes, he did. He did come back. And that's one thing Hogan did. He kept on coming back. He wanted to be a professional wrestler. Dr. Philbo Grice says Street was fun to watch. He appeared to be very skilled. He was more than skilled.
He made me look good. That's how good he was.
I watched him take these guys and hold them up with one finger, and they could not move. I mean, this was incredible stuff. I think it was Columbus, Mississippi. I'm pretty sure that
he loved taking smart alecks and just begin to break them down. Let me just demonstrate this one hold on you. I'll show you what I can do right now. You feel that pressure? I'm just going to put a little pressure on here. Okay, that's enough.
You would do that.
He said that's how you do it, and he's demonstrating that he put up these smart alecks there to give him what else. And he said, "Let me teach you a few holds here."
He would do them. There's no doubt he could hurt you.
And those guys would stay there. The thing about it is they would just stay there and have him show something else. So the more he hurt them, the more they stayed there.
Yep.
Kevin said, I thought Adrian Street was amazing talent in the ring, a very unique character for the era of wrestling. Yes, he was. Adrian just could do anything, and remember everything. You give him a finish, he's going to remember every bit of it. No doubt, Adrian. You remind me of a young Ronnie West so much. Yes, hey, by the way, here's a young Ronnie West right there. Refereeing Georgia Championship Wrestling, Bill. Probably about the time you were there working as well in some respect.
I think that's is that Cobb County Civic Center?
I believe it's it could be the Atlanta City Auditorium. I'm not for sure. I'm not for sure where that picture was took. Greg Hickey, Nature Boy Buddy Lowndes catchphrase. That's right, I said it.
That's right. He did say it.
Did he say that when he got to WCW?
I don't remember.
I'm sure he did because it just come from Mid-South, so I'm sure he said it there too.
Leonard Gross, did Roger Kirby not call himself Nature Boy? Yes.
Yes, he did.
I think he did. Daniel said, did I'm in Love with Myself, I guess it was Adrian Street song, ever reach the Billboard Top 40? No, I don't think that happened.
Should have, though. What a song.
Now, it could have over there in Britain and stuff. I'm not for sure. It could have happened there.
Which, by the way, Adrian's son is an acclaimed musician over there now.
I'd like to hear some of his music. I'm going to have to.
I have. He does kind of like hillbilly rock type stuff. It's really good. He's really good.
Going to have to listen to that. I'm going to have to find that tonight and watch that. Yeah. Steve Pritchard said, really good fun info, guys. Well, thank you so much, Steve. We appreciate you being on here. Here's Alan Martin.
Hey, Alan.
He said he was so hard to work. I think you're talking about Jack. What are you talking?
Well, that too. Hey, Alan, you need to tune in tomorrow night because you're on this episode of WCW that we're going to review tomorrow night.
Yes, he is.
Yes, and we'll only say nice stuff about you. And if we don't, I'll write your name down and we'll apologize to you later.
Manny Fernandez, if I'm not mistaken.
Stuart Kemp Smith was the black sheep of the family, got along with so many that the other family members did not. Miss Smith a great deal.
Yeah, I got to talk with Smith a lot the last couple of years before he passed away. Great guy. So much knowledge.
Let's see, Victor Nash said, you guys should do a show on Hacksaw Butch Reed. We will do so. We will do a show on Butch Reed.
That'll be a good one.
He was so good. Hacksaw Butch Reed. Oh, I'm in the wrong way. Hacksaw Butch Reed right here on the back of this was during his time Mid-South Wrestling. Let's see. Richard Hood's got something, but I think part of it is gone. Let's see. Let me go on down and see if it's. All right, here we go. Maybe this is it. See, Adrian Street had a lot of guts using his gimmick in the South.
That's right.
Well,
hey, go ahead, Jack.
Well, there's nothing you're going to do that's going to ridicule him. I mean, I've never met anybody that he couldn't whoop. So he was not afraid.
No.
We've been to many a town where fans try to jump on Adrian. That was a terrible mistake.
Adrian told me one time we were talking about his history, and he said, I am the one guy that if I were walking down a dark alley that I would not want to run into. But maybe I would.
That's great.
Victor Nash said, I share this with both my Facebook wrestling groups. Thank you so much, Victor. Thank you so much. We certainly appreciate it. Also, Victor said, Vince McMahon sucks. He is the one that changed the Road Warriors music from the Iron Man to What a Rush.
He didn't want to pay them royalties.
No, he didn't. He said
I'm watching some of the wrestling now, and they're they're redoing the music in some of the shows, the old shows now. I was surprised by that.
Yeah.
Everybody was part of the NWO except for the man Goldberg. The $5.5 million Goldberg the last year he was there. If we could just make that. Can you think of the shows we could be putting together right now? That would be incredible. We'd have lights flashing in the back about fireworks when we were coming on. Be a tremendous.
No, we wouldn't. We wouldn't do that. We wouldn't have music. It would just be go to the ring.
We're going to introduce you. The bell's going to ring. You're going to start.
This is true.
We cater in the back as long as you bring a grill for the hot dogs.
That's true. Once we were told there was catering in Continental Championship Wrestling. We must have missed that catering time.
Yeah, I've never seen it. We were even down to the concession stand.
Yeah, I didn't know. I knew that. I wouldn't eat the hot dog out of there.
That's right. Maybe that's what maybe it's what they meant by catering. We catered through the concession stand.
Yeah.
Mickey Mayfield, the insane clown posse.
And I agree with whoever that was before. There was too many members in WO for sure.
Yeah, that was Richard Hood that said that. Did I miss that?
Well, you put it up, but we didn't say anything about it. But he was you're exactly right. It just got too many.
Bill Harris said, "Great show, guys. Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Bill. We certainly appreciate it. We're going to have to do a show on Bill Harris, actually.
Yeah.
Him and Ted Allen and the Nightmares.
We'll have to work around Bill's schedule at the old folks' home.
You talk about a great tag team. There's some videos you can go and watch online. And I actually found one the other day. Tremendous matches. Tremendous matches. So if you've not seen them, make sure you look them up. They are tremendous. Eric Bischoff's left hand hit hard in the right. He put in his pocket. He didn't. That was all his karate stuff that he thought he was good at. His punches and stuff looked horrible, by the way. That stuff.
He might have been good at karate. He was not good at working. So.
No. Shane McMahon needs to bring back WCW since he bought it. He said Gene LaBelle was the promoter, and so what was his brother's name? There was another LaBelle, wasn't he?
I think so.
Mike LaBelle.
Yeah, there you go.
Mike LaBelle was the owner of the wrestling company. Didn't Russo put the title on Arcade? Yes, that is who put the title on. Oh, man, where is that? Vince Russo.
I just feel like I need to spray my house down with Lysol after that.
Well, let's give him credit. He took $100 million company and made it worth $2 million in the end. So
this is true. He did do that, man.
Because that's what Vince paid for it.
That's right. I got to see Adrian once in Homestead, Florida. Always his entrance was always magnificent. Yep. Didn't matter how many times you saw it, you were ready to see it again. Black Hayes Fink said, "Hey guys, how you doing tonight? We're doing good. Did Kamala ever face Abdullah the Butcher? Maybe in Japan.
Yeah, I think they did.
Maybe in Japan. Daniel Lang said that episode is on the WWE Network.
All right.
Okay.
278. So people, you can go see that. Just take a look at that. You can be looking at it while you're watching the actual. See, Victor Nash said, was that during the time when Cornette used to wear a mask? Not during this. During that.
Now, the end of Mid-South time, yeah. And I believe he kept that mask on purpose to the very end because there's no way it takes 3 months to grow your hair back. I mean, seriously.
Who are you talking to?
Rodney, I agree with you about Ted DiBiase, Richard Hood said.
Yeah, he's awesome. He is a great wrestler, and he was great in everything we saw there. But 1982, he was already the man. I mean, he'd been on top. Everybody had already seen that stuff before, and all we're doing is just rehashing. And the fact they even said he was still the big cheese of the Rat Pack. I mean, you talk about. You should have just took the shows from 1982 and showed them again.
It would have been cheaper, probably. Have a fine cigar on every episode with Jack. Greg Hickey gives you. He smokes right along with you, and but we certainly appreciate everyone who comes on and watches us live, and also the people who watch us on the replay. We certainly appreciate it, no matter if you're watching on YouTube or you're watching on Facebook. If you're watching on Facebook, like and share the page. Let everyone know about Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. We're coming up on soon. We'll be coming up on our first year in February. In February, we'll be doing this for 1 year. on YouTube and Facebook, and we've really enjoyed the time. And there's so much to talk about. We just don't have the time to get to it, because in December we're gonna go into the inside of the wrestling business. We're gonna talk about what makes a great good guy, what makes a great bad guy, or babyface or heel, what makes them great. We'll talk about wrestling matches, storylines, psychology. We're gonna get it. December, we're going to really get into the inside. We're called Pro Wrestling Inside Out. We're gonna go to the inside a little bit, and talk a little bit about that in December. So stay tuned for that. Jack, anything we need to talk to the people about before we leave?
No, just hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving. Tomorrow night's episode is going to be a great one. Just join us then. Let's have a good time, because that's what we're doing, by the way. We just want to present the history of our industry in a positive light. We joke, we have fun, but we're still fans of what we do, even though we've been inside of it most of our lives.
Rodney, anything needs to be
Victor's
said?
wanting to know what we're going over tomorrow night. That's going to be World Championship Wrestling for June the 15th, 1985. That's what we're going to
If you'll check my Facebook page, guys, I posted the episode today that we're doing tomorrow night.
Cornell Bryant's brand new to our channel tonight. His dad was the wrestler Chief Little Eagle.
All right. Yes.
Well, we hope you will come back, Cornell. We appreciate you coming on.
And whenever we're able to get guests back on and not have problems, and we are working on that, we're going to, hopefully by the first year we'll work on that, and we'll be able to get guests back on without them going, yeah, you can't hear what they're saying. It doesn't do us no good if you can't understand. But we'd love to get him on and talk about his dad.
Yeah.
I think that would be a spectacular episode to talk to him. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on here. And we want to thank everybody. We want to thank everybody for, he said also his mother was Venus LaRue.
Venus LaRue, yeah.
Wow.
Do you wrestle too, Cornell?
We'll give them some time to get back with us. While we're thinking about that, don't forget, if you want to buy any merchandise, the merchandise is available on the Facebook page. There you see Bomber has he's got his stuff there. Let me go back here. Victor said, welcome to you as well. He said, no, but I did a real bear.
There you go. He's got previous bear fighting experience. There you go. That's what Dutch Mantel.
Hey, I will mention that I just found a documentary on Amazon about Sweet Daddy Siki.
Woo, I love to see it.
And it is amazing. And he talks about wrestling a bear, about how much he hated it, but as he said, they paid me, so I did it.
That's right.
So great documentary though, and it's free on Amazon Prime if you remember.
We'll have to share a bear story and a Ronnie West story about the bear and rubbing honey in his pants. We'll have to tell that story one day. Very interesting story about that one, and we will tell that story on a future episode right here on Pro Wrestling Inside Now. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Like I said, like and share our page on Facebook. If you're watching us on YouTube, give us the big thumbs up. And
Victor's went too far now. I'm just going to have to say, let's just finish this up tonight. Victor goes way too far.
He said we need to do a Kevin Sullivan show. Yeah, we will.
You went way too far.
But Victor, maybe what we'll have to do is get you as a moderator for that show, because you will have to keep on writing down. I won't have time. Jack won't have time. You'll have to write down all the things we'll have to apologize to Kevin Sullivan about as we're going. So, if you don't mind keeping record of things that we'll have to apologize for. All right, guys, thank you so much. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Rodney. We want to thank you so much for being a part of it. We look forward to a great December, a lot of great shows coming up, and we'll see you tomorrow night as we talk about World Championship Wrestling. And there was one other subject we're talking about, but at this point, I don't remember what it is. Y'all remember what the other subject is for tomorrow night?
I'm pulling it up now.
I don't remember what it is.
DX Invasion.
DX Invasion of W7. WCW. Yep.
I said excavation. No, but it's DX Invasion.
All right, we'll talk about that stuff tomorrow night. Thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow night, and thank you so much for being a part of Pro Wrestling Inside Now.